No, you're welcome.
Hi, Francesco. Hi, all.
Nice to have you here. And indeed, many weeks have passed since the moments that were the most intense and the most heated moments in wars in general. Here, the ongoing war in Ukraine continues to claim lives, and moreover, to vividly record, if you will, a deep and persistent difficulty in finding a plausible, workable path toward a sincere negotiation that seemed only a few days ago to have clearly opened for negotiations between the sides involved. That's not the case, really. Look, about Melanie, while in the United Arab Emirates, for instance, we had also talked about this. Things have almost returned to normal, it seems to me, doesn't it?
But in the United Arab Emirates, there is no real normality. Let us say that in the Middle East, normal life cannot exist. There will be a ceasefire, as there is now, a ceasefire that can last days, weeks, months, or years, but it will always be a ceasefire. The armistice does not determine the end of a conflict because it does not completely resolve the root causes of this conflict. There was Trump, there is, but above all Israel, which wanted total disarmament, not total nuclear disarmament. There was Iran that wanted the sanctions lifted, something it partly achieved, etc., but above all control of the Strait of Hormuz. So this thing to me seems a bit like America's surrender because it can't go on like this. Trump is terrified by the elections and so he will lose all his support, which is in total collapse, and he's practically wrecking the whole world economy. In plain terms, this is a pivotal moment for the world economy. Now these are the factors that push him toward making peace, but on the other side, Israel is a loose cannon because it is seen betrayed by the American government, and practically no one knows when the next move will come. And so an armistice, not peace, let us remember it.
So now we turn instead to all the rest of it all. And, Melanie, over the past weeks, we have also talked a bit about other things. The situation in the United States, the figure of Donald Trump. We have talked about Epstein, and it seems Epstein's name has dropped off the agenda. And I think that, anyway, it is the right thing to bring this to a conclusion. No, to pursue a major, deep investigation that can leave its mark.
But then you see this Epstein, well, I always call Epstein, that's a bit the Germanic side, and practically it's, in a sense, the symbol also of our own Western world's pervasive, stubborn, very obvious wickedness at times. I think that peoples are divided into old and young. The old peoples, as ancient as ours, I am here in Brussels, and I see these absolutely stunning centuries-old cathedrals, these cities of such grandeur that seem almost disarming in their overwhelming magnificence. Not only are there churches, but there are the squares. This domineering medieval age invades you even in Brucks, and when you see all these paintings, even the old Flemish ones, you realize how much history we have behind us and how old we are. In our politics, in our daily cultural life, we use cynicism, we use irony, we use many things that, in many young peoples, including the Middle East and India, though they are old, are in the end young because the ancient Indian empire was completely destroyed. There exist peoples older than us, but far more youthful, the Philippines and Iran as well, these ancient peoples who laid the foundations of civilization yet were swept away, and now we ourselves are the old ones. And therefore there are these young peoples present here in Brussels as well, no? You see this city of incredible splendor, but it stands as a complete example of what Europe of the future will be. That is the rate at which people immigrate, the rate of a youthful population, but also in a certain sense seen as almost dangerous by us older people, is all these newly arrived people with all these small neighborhood shops who wear the veil, who have different cultures, and whom we older citizens cannot quite understand, because we are used to a democracy that can be governed only by the elderly. Young people desperately need rules, they need authority, they need clearly defined precise directives because they are inflamed, because they are revolutionary, because they have hot blood. Old people like us know how to wisely manage a democracy that young people simply cannot manage. And from this point forward, all the current immigration conflicts arise, from Italy to Europe to Brussels. where there are indeed neighborhoods here that truly frighten, because Brussels is then divided into municipalities that possess a government almost independently operating within the larger Brussels city municipality, and these municipalities are utterly and completely decaying. There's grass growing on the street, between the paving blocks, and begging is everywhere. You won't find a single person, let's say, from Western civilization, even after meters and meters in which you drive around in your car, because you can't even walk, right? Here is what Europe will become: an aging population that blends with a younger population, which, to be governed, needs the authoritarian governments of their countries, because democracy can't be learned in weeks.
Oh, you really cannot learn this in just a few weeks. There is no doubt about that. Still, there are listeners who ask us questions about communication. A moment ago, we were talking about certain cries from the agency. I do not agree either. I am someone who is, after all, balanced. I try to be at least that steady when commenting on the events and the behaviors, because knowing human nature well, I understand that we human beings are, after all, very fallible and prone to errors. And I say this calmly and honestly indeed. However, shouting thousands and thousands of deaths because of the heat seems to me, it seems too much, doesn't it? It seems too much even to me. Do we want to go, though, since we're talking about Europe? You're in Brussels? And Brussels is naturally one of the two European seats. A problem never solved. Having thus two seats doubled the expenses. It is also so utterly incomprehensible. It is extraordinarily inconvenient every time to have to carry documents from one side to the other between Strasbourg and Brussels, right? So France and Belgium. And tell us a little about what this city feels like, what this city is really like. What is this city like? Does it reflect well the face of Europe in its bright days and in its flaws? For better or worse, I mean, Melanie.
Yes, and as I was saying, I basically think Europe is the Europe of the future. This Europe intermingled with immigrants, with foreigners indeed. We think that 70% and 78% of the Belgian population is at least related to foreigners, has a grandfather, a father, with mixed marriages and family ties, really. 38% are genuine immigrants of a new generation in Europe today, too. And then there will be, I don't know, 100, 200,000 undocumented immigrants. No, they are not numbers that can be traced very well, but our Europe, the Europe that we are used to living in, feeling like homeowners, as if we owned this place, in fact, for all of us that we all share, precisely a Europe destined to collapse if we do not do something to manage this immigration in a somewhat wiser way together. We must think that, as old people, I spoke of ancient culture. We no longer bear children, for old cultures grow more individualistic, the elderly themselves, right? Old people don't want to have children anymore. They don't even have hormones left. They want to reflect on what they have done. They have become critical. And so our society is a society that reflects itself, an individualistic society, a society that does not think about going to procreate. But these young societies that come here have a lot of children, that is, they reproduce at mind-boggling rates. And as soon as they learn democracy, they learn our ways. They want rights that did not exist in their countries. Well, I come from the United Arab Emirates, which means I now speak, but I am married to an Emirati man. I am half, therefore, assimilated to that culture, and I know well that Middle Eastern culture, like many cultures including Indian and Chinese, is collectivist, societies that say we instead of I, and that they mainly emphasize duties. And yet these people who come here learn that there are rights, and indeed they want only rights and forget about duties. Things that we have acquired, right? We already perform our duty because we have learned that there are truly duties of other people. Instead, if you live in Dubai, you are punished. If, for example, you give the middle finger to someone or say a swear word, you are punished, you go to prison. Here, so this measure serves as a deterrent, a precaution that keeps anyone from harming others. In short, it prevents anyone from breaking the law. If you bring a young population like that into this country, it will, for that reason, spark chaos. Because I simply want the rights. So they all come because they have easy passports, easy citizenships, things that in Dubai you cannot possibly obtain as an immigrant. You will never, under any circumstances, have them. Many Canadians, including Pakistani Canadians and Indian Canadians, Indians from the Commonwealth, and even those from England, hold English passports. They work there, but then they come to England, and afterward they go to Canada, and later they come to Europe. Why is that? Because here they have the pension fund, the sickness fund, and broad welfare support. In short, Europe gives a lot. It has a very strong Christian base. It is not Greece's democracy, which was only for the free and not for slaves. Here is a democracy for absolutely everyone. In the United Arab Emirates, you have a division between rulers and slaves. Slaves are those who will never have a passport and live in very precarious conditions. In Europe, we grant passports in abundance, even before considering those who, holding passports for years and having the right to work, etc., are deprived of fundamental rights as well. This is the real problem right now. There is a great disequilibrium at the moment that Europe must face, and Brussels is not able to face it today. I mean, I don't see this balance just wandering the streets. It is really very difficult to accept that Europe will become so full of graffiti on ancient monuments, full of dirt in this way. In short, it's hard.
Yes, Melanie, this look at Brussels, at Bruxelles, as we call it. So much so that I was asking you, but who is it? What is Brussels? Well, we're about to close. Just a note, one more note. It's natural that in the middle of such a critical international situation, and while there would indeed be, it would be appropriate to deepen Brussels' role. Yet there isn't time or a way to delve into the European organization. The European Union? No. Into the Europe entity, and therefore nothing. We should expect other moments to try to raise the bar a bit in quality, and especially productivity. The effectiveness of an entity, that we continually look to, but without receiving great answers, which is called Europe. Thanks to Melanie and Francesca. Have a nice day.
Thanks to you all. Bye.
I'll see you soon, Melanie, dear friend. I want to warmly remind everyone of two important upcoming appointments. In the meantime, Sabina DOP olive oil from Petrucci. The grilling season has begun today.